The sun was setting over the small town of Maplewood, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air smelled of fresh pine from the nearby forest, and everything seemed peaceful. Jack Miller stood on his porch, wiping sweat from his brow, after a long day working in the fields. His daughter Lily sat on the steps strumming her guitar softly. It was just another quiet evening in their little corner of Oregon, but then something happened that would change everything. A loud boom echoed through the valley, followed by a bright flash of light. The sound was so sudden and sharp that it made both Jack and Lily jump to their feet. They looked toward the lake at the edge of their property, where ripples were spreading across the water, like someone had dropped a giant stone into it. Smoke rose from the center of the lake, curling upward in thick black clouds. "What was that?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Jack replied, grabbing his flashlight. "Stay here." But Lily wasn't about to stay behind. She grabbed her jacket and hurried after him as they made their way down the dirt path leading to the lake. When they arrived, they saw something floating in the water, a strange object shaped like an oval, glowing faintly with blue lights running along its edges. It wasn't like anything they'd ever seen before. Is that a spaceship?" Lily whispered. Jack didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the figures climbing out of the craft. There were 3 of them, tall and thin, with smooth, gray skin and large almond-shaped eyes. They moved awkwardly as if injured or weak. One of them stumbled and fell into the shallow water, letting out a low moan. Without thinking, Jack waded into the lake. "Hey, are you okay?" The aliens turned their heads toward him, their expressions unreadable. 2 of them helped the third stand up, and together they limped toward the shore. Up close, Jack could see cuts and burns on their bodies. Their clothes, or what remained of them, looked torn and singed. "We need to get them inside," Jack said firmly, glancing back at Lily. "Go grab some blankets and call Dr. Ross." Lily nodded and ran back to the house while Jack carefully guided the strangers onto dry land. By the time she returned with blankets and a first aid kit, the aliens were sitting on the grass, shivering despite the warm evening air. Jack wrapped one of the blankets around the smallest figure, who appeared to be a child. The other 2 clung to each other, watching him warily. Dr. Emily Ross arrived an hour later. She was a retired biologist in her late 60s, known for her sharp mind and no-nonsense attitude. When Lily explained what had happened, Dr. Ross wasted no time grabbing her medical bag and heading to the lake. "This is unlike anything I've ever seen," she muttered as she examined the aliens. "Their biology doesn't match anything on Earth." She worked quickly, cleaning their wounds and applying ointments she hoped wouldn't harm them. The aliens flinched at her touch but didn't resist. Occasionally, they exchanged soft sounds that might have been words, though none of them understood. By morning, news of the crash had spread throughout Maplewood. People gathered outside the Miller's farm, whispering and pointing. Some were curious, others afraid. A few even brought cameras, trying to snap photos of the mysterious visitors. Word reached the media, and soon reporters began arriving from neighboring towns. Helicopters circled overhead, capturing footage of the lake and the damaged spacecraft. The world wanted answers, but all anyone knew was that an alien family had landed in a tiny Oregon town, and no one knew why. Governments reacted swiftly, issuing statements urging caution. Scientists debated whether the aliens posed a threat, while politicians argued over jurisdiction. In the end, most countries decided not to intervene, leaving the situation in the hands of local authorities. But even Sheriff William Hayes, a lifelong resident of Maplewood, didn't know what to do. "They're hurt," Jack insisted when the sheriff came to question him. "They're not dangerous." "You don't know that," Hayes replied, rubbing his temples. "People are scared, Jack. You can't blame them." "But we can't just turn them away either," Lily chimed in. Her voice was steady, surprising even herself. "What if it were us? What if we needed help?" Hayes sighed. He admired the Miller's courage, but he also knew how volatile the situation could become. Tensions were already high, and more people were showing up every hour. Protesters held signs demanding the aliens leave, while supporters rallied around Jack's farm, offering food and supplies. Despite the chaos, Jack refused to give in to fear. With Dr. Ross's help, he continued caring for the alien family. Over the next few days, they learned a few things about them. The tallest one, whom they called Kael, seemed to be the father. His companion, Lyra, stayed close to him, often holding the child, Vren. Though communication was difficult, gestures and facial expressions helped bridge the gap. One evening, as Jack sat by the fire with Lily, he asked, "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" Lily hesitated before answering. "I think we're doing the only thing we can. If we turned them away, we'd be no better than everyone else who abandoned them." Jack nodded slowly. He knew she was right, but that didn't make it any easier. Every day brought new challenges, angry phone calls, threats scrawled on his barn, even anonymous letters warning him to stop. Yet there were moments of hope too, like when neighbors brought homemade meals or offered to watch the farm while he focused on the aliens. On the 5th night, Dr. Ross made a breakthrough. Using a portable microscope borrowed from the local high school, she analyzed samples taken from the aliens' wounds. To her amazement, their cells resembled those of certain deep-sea creatures on Earth, organisms capable of surviving extreme conditions. "It's incredible," she told Jack and Lily. "Their bodies are incredibly resilient. With proper care, they should heal." "That's good news," Jack said, relief washing over him. "But healing won't solve everything. We still need to figure out what happens next." As the days passed, the alien family grew stronger. Kael and Lyra began exploring the farm under Jack's supervision, marveling at the plants and animals. Vren especially loved the chickens, giggling whenever they pecked at the ground. For the first time since their arrival, there was laughter in the air. But outside the farm, the mood remained tense. Armed groups began patrolling the roads, claiming they were protecting the town. Flyers appeared overnight, calling for the aliens to be handed over to the government. Or worse. Jack knew it was only a matter of time before the situation boiled over. Still, he held on to hope. Hope that humanity could rise above its fears. Hope that kindness would prevail. And hope that maybe, just maybe, the aliens would find a way to thank them. Not with words, but with actions that would remind the world of what it truly meant to be human. For now, though, all Jack could do was wait, and keep fighting for the family that no one else would save. Days turned into weeks, and the alien family, Kael, Lyra, and Vren, slowly began to recover under the care of Jack, Lily, and Dr. Ross. The makeshift medical supplies and improvised treatments were far from perfect, but they worked well enough. Kael's wounds healed first, and he started helping around the farm, mimicking the tasks Jack performed. Lyra, though still weak, tried her best to assist with cooking or cleaning, while Vren spent most of his time playing near the chickens, giggling at their antics. Communication remained a challenge. At first, gestures and expressions were the only way to share thoughts, but Lily discovered something surprising one evening. As she sat on the porch strumming her guitar, Vren tilted his head, listening intently. When she played a soft melody, his large eyes lit up, and he smiled. Encouraged, Lily played another tune, slower this time. To everyone's astonishment, Vren hummed along, matching the rhythm. "He likes music," Lily said excitedly, looking at her dad and Dr. Ross. "Maybe we can use it to talk." From that moment on, music became their bridge. Lily played songs every day, watching as the aliens responded with movements, sounds, or even gentle touches. Over time, they learned to associate certain notes with feelings. Happy tunes brought smiles, while slower melodies seemed to comfort them during moments of sadness. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One afternoon, as Lily practiced a new song, Kael stepped closer. He pointed at the guitar, then at his chest, making a low, melodic sound. It took her a few tries to understand what he meant, but eventually, she realized he was asking if he could try. Carefully, she handed him the instrument. Kael held it awkwardly, plucking the strings with hesitant fingers. The sound was clumsy, but the effort made Lily laugh with delight. "They're learning," Dr. Ross observed later that evening, "and not just about us. We're learning about them too." As trust grew between the humans and the aliens, so did curiosity. One day, after finishing breakfast, Cale led Jack and Lily to the lake where their ship had crashed. Using hand signals and broken attempts at speech, he explained that the spacecraft carried memories, images, and stories from their home planet. They wanted to share these memories with their rescuers. Dr. Ross brought her laptop, and together they managed to connect it to a small device Cale retrieved from the wreckage. The screen flickered to life, displaying breathtaking scenes of a distant world. Towering crystalline trees swayed in golden sunlight, rivers flowed with shimmering liquid, and cities floated high above the ground, glowing like stars. "It's beautiful," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. But the images shifted, showing destruction instead of peace. Fires raged across the land. Buildings crumbled and skies darkened with smoke. Cale's expression turned somber as he gestured wildly, trying to explain. Through fragmented words and repeated phrases, they pieced together the story. War had ravaged their planet, forcing them to flee. They traveled for years, searching for safety, only to face rejection wherever they went. Now stranded on Earth, they feared they'd never find a place to call home again. Jack felt a lump form in his throat. He couldn't imagine losing everything. Not just possessions, but an entire way of life. For the first time, he truly understood why the aliens had come to Earth and why they needed help so desperately. Despite their growing bond, tensions outside the farm continued to rise. News outlets broadcasted sensationalized reports, painting the aliens as potential threats. Protesters gathered daily, shouting slogans and waving signs that read, "Protect our planet and send them back." Some demanded the government take control of the situation, while others called for immediate action, even violence. Daniel Carter, Jack's longtime friend and neighbor, visited one evening to voice his concerns. "I get it, Jack," he said, pacing back and forth. "You want to help them, but people are scared. What happens if they turn on us, or bring trouble we can't handle?" "They won't," Jack replied firmly. "They're refugees, Daniel, just like anyone else who's lost everything. Would you turn away a human family in need?" "That's different," Daniel argued. "These aren't humans. We don't know what they're capable of." "Their parents protecting their child?" Lily interjected, stepping forward. "Doesn't that count for something?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not saying I don't feel bad for them, but you're putting yourself and all of us at risk. You have to think about the bigger picture." Jack didn't respond. He knew Daniel meant well, but he also knew there was no changing his mind. Instead, he focused on keeping the aliens safe, reinforcing fences around the property and organizing volunteers to stand guard at night. More supporters joined their cause, bringing food, blankets, and moral support. Among them was Rachel Monroe, a local mechanic with a sharp wit and a kind heart. Though skeptical at first, Rachel warmed up to the family after seeing how much they relied on Jack and Lily. "They remind me of my own kids," she admitted one evening, watching Vren chase a butterfly. "Innocent, you know? They didn't ask for any of this." Rachel's skills proved invaluable when the group decided to repair the alien spacecraft. Cale had shown them diagrams etched into a metal panel explaining which parts needed fixing. With limited resources, they scoured junkyards and old warehouses for usable materials. Rachel dismantled old cars and appliances, repurposing wires, circuits, and engines. Dr. Ross studied the ship's technology, jotting down notes and theories late into the night. "It's going to take time," Rachel warned. "This isn't exactly your average fix-it job." "We've got time," Jack replied, "as long as we stick together." Meanwhile, Lily continued bonding with Vren. She taught him simple English words, pointing to objects and repeating their names. Tree, sky, flower. Vren struggled at first, his pronunciation halting and uncertain, but he improved quickly. In return, he showed her pictures in the air, shapes formed by tiny glowing particles that hovered around his hands. Sometimes they were animals, other times landscapes. Each image told a story, giving Lily glimpses of his world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily and Vren sat by the lake, skipping stones across the water. Vren picked up a smooth rock, studying it carefully before tossing it. It skipped 5 times before sinking, earning a cheer from Lily. "You're getting good at this," she said, smiling. Vren grinned back, his large eyes sparkling. Then, to her surprise, he spoke. "Thank you," he said slowly, his voice soft but clear. Lily froze, staring at him. "Did you just thank you?" Vren repeated, pointing at her. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. She pulled him into a hug, laughing and crying at the same time. "You're welcome," she whispered. "Always." News of Vren's breakthrough spread quickly among the group. Even Kale and Lyra seemed proud, clapping softly and exchanging glances filled with hope. For the first time since their arrival, the atmosphere felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. But the respite was short-lived. That same night, a group of armed men approached the farm, demanding the aliens' surrender. Jack stood on the porch blocking their path while Lily and Dr. Ross stayed inside with the family. Rachel and several volunteers lined up behind Jack, holding flashlights and makeshift tools. "This is private property," Jack said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "You're not welcome here." One of the men stepped. Before Jack could respond, Cale emerged from the house, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. His presence startled the men, who raised their weapons instinctively. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. "No!" Jack shouted, stepping between Cale and the gunman. "They're not hurting anyone. Leave them alone." The standoff lasted several agonizing minutes until Sheriff Hayes arrived, alerted by Daniel. He stepped out of his car, his badge glinting in the moonlight. "Lower your weapons," he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Now." Reluctantly, the men complied. Hayes addressed the crowd, reminding them of the law and warning against further violence, though he didn't openly support Jack's decision. He respected it, urging everyone to go home and let cooler heads prevail. As the crowd dispersed, Jack turned to Cale, who nodded silently, conveying gratitude without words. Inside the house, Lily hugged Vren tightly, promising she wouldn't let anyone hurt him. Dr. Ross and Rachel exchanged weary smiles, knowing the battle wasn't over. But for now, they'd won. That night, as Jack lay in bed, he thought about the risks they were taking and the lives depending on them. He wondered if humanity would ever learn to see beyond fear, to embrace compassion instead of suspicion. But as he drifted off to sleep, he clung to one truth. No matter what happened, next they had done the right thing, for the alien family and for themselves. The days that followed the confrontation at the farm were tense. The armed men had left, but their presence lingered like a shadow over Maplewood. Threats continued to arrive. Notes slipped under doors, graffiti sprayed on barn walls, even anonymous phone calls warning Jack and his group to get rid of the aliens. Despite the hostility, Jack refused to back down. He believed they were doing the right thing, even if it meant standing alone. Work on repairing the spaceship progressed slowly, but steadily. Rachel Monroe spent long hours tinkering with the alien technology, her hands blackened with grease and her brow furrowed in concentration. Dr. Ross studied the ship's systems, jotting down notes and diagrams. Together, they pieced together fragments of knowledge, learning how the craft operated and what parts needed fixing. It was painstaking work, made harder by the fact that none of them had ever seen anything like it before. Kyle and Lyra tried to help as much as they could. They pointed out damaged components and demonstrated how certain mechanisms worked using gestures and sounds. Vren stayed close to Lily, watching the repairs with wide-eyed curiosity. Sometimes he mimicked the humans' movements, pretending to tighten bolts or adjust wires. His antics brought moments of laughter, lightening the mood when frustration threatened to take over. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rachel wiped her hands on a rag and sighed. "This is going to take longer than we thought," she admitted. "We're missing some key parts. Without them, the engine won't run." Jack frowned. "Where can we find replacements?" Rachel shrugged. "Not around here, that's for sure. We might have to order something online, or hope someone donates spare equipment." Dr. Ross chimed in, holding up a sketch she'd drawn. "If we modify this piece, maybe we can make it work. It's risky, but it's all we've got." They decided to try her idea, scavenging materials from old machines and welding them together. Progress was slow, but every small success felt like a victory. Kyle often stood nearby observing silently. When the repairs hit a snag, he would step forward, offering suggestions through gestures or hummed melodies. His contributions, though subtle, made a difference. Outside the farm, tensions simmered. Protesters returned daily, their numbers growing larger. Some carried signs demanding the aliens leave, while others shouted insults at anyone who dared support Jack's cause. Neighbors who had once been friendly now avoided eye contact, afraid of being associated with the controversy. Even Daniel Carter stopped visiting, unable to reconcile his friendship with Jack and his fear of the unknown. Despite the hostility, there were still those who stood by Jack's side. Volunteers brought food and supplies, helping however they could. Sheriff Hayes patrolled the area more frequently, ensuring no one crossed the line into violence. Though he didn't openly endorse Jack's actions, he respected the man's determination and his moral courage. One night, as everyone gathered around the fire after a long day of work, Lily played her guitar. The melody drifted through the air, soothing and familiar. Kyle closed his eyes, swaying slightly, while Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. Vren sat cross-legged on the ground, humming along softly. For a moment, the world outside, the protests, the threats, the uncertainty, faded away, but reality came crashing back the next morning. A news crew arrived at the farm, setting up cameras and microphones near the fence. Reporters shouted questions at Jack and his group, their voices overlapping in a chaotic din. "Are the aliens dangerous?" one asked. "Why are you risking your safety for them?" another demanded. Jack stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. "These aren't invaders," he said, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "They're a family, a mother, a father, and a child. Their planet was destroyed and they're looking for a place to start over. Isn't that something we can all understand?" The reporters scribbled notes, their cameras clicking and flashing. Before they could ask more questions, Sheriff Hayes intervened, ushering them off the property. "That's enough," he said firmly. "You're trespassing, move along." As the reporters left, grumbling and muttering about censorship, Jack turned to his group. "It's only going to get worse," he warned. "People are scared and fear makes them do things they wouldn't normally do." "We'll handle it," Rachel said, clenching her fists. "We've come too far to give up now." Encouraged by her resolve, the group redoubled their efforts. Days blurred into nights as they worked tirelessly on the spaceship. Finally, after weeks of struggle, they reached a breakthrough. Rachel stepped back from the engine compartment, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I think we did it," she announced, her voice trembling with excitement. "Fire it up, Kyle." Kyle hesitated, then placed his hand on a glowing panel inside the ship. The vessel hummed to life, its lights flickering brightly. Everyone cheered, hugging each other and laughing with relief. For the first time in weeks, hope filled the air. But the celebration was short-lived. That night, a mob approached the farm, armed with torches and weapons. They surrounded the property, shouting demands for the aliens to leave. Jack, Lily, and the others rushed outside, standing between the crowd and the spaceship. "You're not taking them," Jack shouted, his voice echoing across the field. "They haven't done anything wrong." "They don't belong here," someone yelled back. "Send them away before they hurt us." "They're not hurting anyone," Lily cried, stepping forward. "They're just trying to survive like we all are." The mob hesitated, unsure how to respond. In the silence that followed, Kyle emerged from the ship, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. He walked toward the crowd, stopping a few feet away. Then, to everyone's surprise, he began to sing. His voice was soft and melodic, carrying an emotion that transcended language. Slowly, the mob lowered their weapons, captivated by the sound. When Cale finished, he bowed his head, then returned to the ship. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Sheriff Hayes stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "Go home," he said quietly. "There's nothing to see here." Reluctantly, the mob dispersed, leaving the farm in eerie silence. Inside the house, the group sat together, exhausted but relieved. They had faced their greatest challenge yet, and survived. The next morning, Kyle and Lyra prepared to say goodbye. With the spaceship repaired, they knew it was time to leave. They gathered their few belongings and stood by the lake, waiting for the humans to join them. Jack approached first, extending his hand. Cale shook it firmly, his expression solemn. Lyra embraced Lily, tears glistening in her large eyes. Vren hugged Rachel tightly, then ran to Lily, clinging to her legs. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice breaking. Lily knelt down, pulling him into a final hug. "Take care of yourself," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Never forget how brave you are." As the aliens boarded the ship, Cale turned to face the group one last time. He raised his hand, pressing it to his chest in a gesture of gratitude. Then the door closed and the spacecraft lifted off the ground, ascending into the sky in a burst of light. Everyone watched until the ship disappeared among the stars. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Jack put an arm around Lily's shoulders, pulling her close. "We did the right thing," he said softly. "I know," Lily replied, smiling through her tears. "And I think they'll remember us. For a very long time." In the days that followed, life in Maplewood slowly returned to normal. The protests ended and the media moved on to other stories, but the impact of the alien family's visit lingered. People began talking about compassion and kindness, about choosing understanding over fear. And though not everyone agreed, many came to see Jack and his group as heroes, not because they saved the aliens, but because they reminded humanity of its potential for good. For Jack, Lily, and their friends, the experience changed them forever. They had faced danger, hatred, and doubt, but they had also found hope, connection, and courage. As they looked up at the stars each night, they wondered where the alien family had gone. Had they found a new home? Were they safe? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Their brief stay on Earth had left a lasting mark, a reminder that even in the darkest times, acts of kindness could light the way forward. The alien family's departure left a quiet emptiness in Maplewood. The farm felt different without the hum of the spaceship or the soft glow of its lights at night. Jack and Lily spent their days going through the motions, feeding the chickens, tending to the crops, and fixing fences, but their hearts weren't fully in it. Even Rachel and Dr. Ross seemed quieter, their usual energy dulled by the absence of Cale, Lyra, and Vren. Still, life had to go on. The fields needed care and the cows needed milking. Jack tried to focus on work, but his mind often wandered back to the aliens. He thought about Cale's steady gaze, Lyra's gentle touch, and Vren's laughter as he chased butterflies. They had only been with them for a short time, yet they had changed everything. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily sat on the porch strumming her guitar. She played the same melody she had taught Vren, the one he had hummed along to during their first meeting. Her fingers moved slowly over the strings, each note carrying memories of their time together. Jack joined her after finishing his chores, sitting beside her in silence. "They're out there somewhere," Lily said softly, looking up at the stars. "Do you think they're okay?" Jack nodded. "I do. They're strong, and they've got each other. That's what matters." Lily smiled faintly, but her eyes remained fixed on the sky. "I hope they remember us." "I'm sure they will," Jack replied. "We gave them a chance when no one else would. That's something worth remembering." The next morning brought Unexpected news. A message broadcasted across every television and radio station worldwide, a transmission from the alien family. It began with an image of Earth, its blue oceans and green continents glowing against the blackness of space. Then Kale appeared, speaking in broken English, his voice calm and measured. "People of Earth," he began, "we thank you. You showed fierce kindness when others turned away. Your courage gives us hope, not just for ourselves, but for all who seek refuge among the stars." The message continued, showing glimpses of their journey, the destruction of their home planet, the long years of wandering, and finally, their arrival in Maplewood. There were scenes of Jack helping Kale repair the fence, Lily teaching Vren new words, and Rachel working tirelessly on the spaceship. The video ended with a simple gesture, Kale pressing his hand to his chest, then raising it toward the camera in farewell. By the time the transmission ended, millions of people were watching. Social media exploded with reactions, some filled with awe, others with regret. News outlets replayed the message endlessly, analyzing every word and image. For the first time, humanity saw itself through the eyes of strangers, recognizing both its flaws and its potential for good. In Maplewood, the impact was immediate. Neighbors who had once avoided Jack now approached him with apologies and thanks. Strangers drove into town just to see the farm where the aliens had stayed. Flowers and letters piled up at the gate, expressing gratitude for what Jack and his group had done. Even Daniel Carter returned, shaking Jack's hand and admitting he had been wrong to doubt him. "You did something amazing," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion, "something I didn't think was possible." Jack shrugged modestly. "We just did what anyone should have done. They needed help, so we helped them. But it wasn't just about helping. What Jack, Lily, and their friends had done went beyond repairing a spaceship or feeding a family. They had shown the world that fear didn't have to win, that even in the face of uncertainty, compassion could prevail. Their actions inspired others to rethink their own choices, sparking conversations about acceptance and unity. As weeks passed, the initial excitement faded, but the lessons remained. Schools began teaching students about the alien family's visit, using it as an example of how small acts of kindness could create ripples of change. Artists painted murals of the spaceship, lifting off surrounded by smiling human faces. Musicians wrote songs inspired by Lily's guitar melodies, capturing the hope and connection shared between two vastly different species. For Lily, the experience became a turning point. She started writing stories about Kale, Lyra, and Vren, imagining their adventures among the stars. Her tales spread quickly, resonating with readers of all ages. One day she received a letter from a young boy in another state, thanking her for reminding him that even aliens can be friends. Encouraged by the response, Lily decided to pursue writing full-time, determined to keep spreading messages of hope and understanding. Rachel found new purpose too. Inspired by her work on the spaceship, she opened a workshop in town, specializing in custom repairs and innovative designs. People came from miles around to see her creations, marveling at how she combined human ingenuity with alien inspiration. Though she missed the challenge of fixing the spacecraft, she took pride in knowing her skills had made a difference. Dr. Ross, meanwhile, returned to her studies with renewed passion. She published papers detailing her observations of the alien family's biology, sparking interest in the scientific community. Researchers reached out to collaborate, eager to learn more about extraterrestrial life. Though she never expected fame, Dr. Ross embraced her role as a bridge between worlds, advocating for peaceful exploration and mutual respect. And Jack? He kept farming, finding solace in the rhythms of nature. But he also became a voice for those who couldn't speak for themselves. He traveled to nearby towns, sharing his story and encouraging others to act with courage and compassion. His speeches were simple, focusing on the idea that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to care for others, even those who seemed different. Months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Jack stood by the lake where it had all begun. The water shimmered under the moonlight, reflecting the stars above, Beside him, Lily strummed her guitar, playing the same melody that had connected them to Vren. They didn't say much, content to simply be together in the quiet beauty of the moment. Suddenly, a streak of light shot across the sky, a shooting star, bright and fleeting. Lily gasped, pointing upward. "Do you think that's them?" Jack smiled, his eyes following the trail of light. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just a reminder that they're still out there, looking back at us." Lily nodded, her heart swelling with hope. Whether it was Kale, Lyra, and Vren, or simply the universe itself, the message was clear. They weren't forgotten. And neither was the kindness shown to them. As the light faded, Jack put an arm around Lily's shoulders. "Come on," he said, gently. "Let's head inside." They walked back to the house, leaving the lake behind. The farm was quiet now, the chickens roosting and the cows resting in their stalls. Inside, the fire crackled warmly, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Jack poured them each a cup of tea, and they sat together, talking about plans for the future. Though the alien family was gone, their presence lingered, in the stories told, the lessons learned, and the lives touched. They had reminded Maplewood, and the world, of something important, that kindness transcends boundaries, whether they're drawn by language, culture, or even species. As Jack and Lily drifted off to sleep that night, they dreamed of stars and spaceships, of melodies carried on cosmic winds. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of Earth, Kale, Lyra, and Vren looked back at the blue planet, grateful for the humans who had chosen to save them. It was a story that would be told for generations, a tale of courage, connection, and the enduring power of compassion. And though the details might fade with time, the essence would remain, that even in the vastness of the universe, no act of kindness is ever truly forgotten. The months following the alien family's departure brought changes to Maplewood, but life eventually settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. The farm thrived under Jack's care, its fields lush with crops and its animals healthy and well-fed. Yet there was an undeniable sense of something missing, a quiet longing for the days when Kale, Lyra, and Vren had been part of their lives. Lily often sat by the lake in the evenings, her guitar resting on her lap. She played melodies they had shared with the aliens, each note carrying fragments of memories. Sometimes she imagined Vren sitting beside her, humming along or laughing as he chased butterflies. Other times she wondered what it would be like if they returned, even just for a visit. Would they recognize her? Would they remember the songs? Jack noticed his daughter's wistful gaze and decided to do something about it. One afternoon, he approached her as she strummed her guitar by the water. "You know," he said, sitting down beside her, "they might not have forgotten us either." Lily looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Jack continued, "that maybe we should find a way to let them know we're still thinking of them." "How?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. "They're out there somewhere among the stars. We don't even know where to start." Jack smiled. "We've got Rachel and Dr. Ross. If anyone can figure out how to send a message, it's them." Excited by the idea, Lily ran to the workshop where Rachel was tinkering with a broken tractor. "Rachel," she called out, "Dad wants to send a message to the aliens." Rachel wiped her hands on a rag and raised an eyebrow. "A message? To outer space? That's quite the project." "It's worth a try," Lily insisted. "We owe it to them. They trusted us, and now it's our turn to show we haven't forgotten." Intrigued, Rachel agreed to help. Together, they enlisted Dr. Ross, whose knowledge of alien technology proved invaluable. Over the next few weeks, the group worked tirelessly, piecing together equipment from the remnants of the spaceship and scavenging parts from old radios and satellites. Their goal was simple: create a device capable of transmitting a signal strong enough to reach beyond Earth's atmosphere. Kale had shown them diagrams of communication systems during their time together, and these became the foundation of their design. Rachel handled the mechanical aspects, while Dr. Ross focused on calibrating frequencies. Jack and Lily assisted wherever they could, testing components and offering suggestions. It was slow, frustrating work, but the thought of reconnecting with the alien family kept them motivated. One evening, as the team gathered around the makeshift transmitter, Rachel flipped the switch. A low hum filled the air, growing louder as the machine powered up. Lights blinked on the console and a faint crackle emerged from the speakers. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a response. At first, there was only static. Then, faintly, a sound came through, a melodic hum reminiscent of the songs Lily had played for Vren. Her eyes widened. "That's them," she exclaimed. "They're answering." The hum grew clearer, resolving into tones that matched the melodies they had shared. It wasn't language, but it didn't need to be. The message was clear. They remembered. Tears streamed down Lily's face as she grabbed her guitar and began playing the same tune. The transmitter carried the music outward, blending with the incoming sounds. For several minutes, the exchange continued, a symphony of human and alien voices bridging the vast distance between worlds. When the transmission ended, the group sat in silence, overwhelmed by what they had accomplished. They had done more than send a message. They had reaffirmed a bond that transcended galaxies. Word of their success spread quickly, drawing attention from scientists and journalists alike. Experts marveled at the ingenuity of the device, calling it a breakthrough in interstellar communication. Reporters flocked to Maplewood, eager to document the story of the small-town farmers who had reached out to the stars. But Jack and his group weren't interested in fame. What mattered most was the connection they had rekindled. Inspired by their achievement, communities around the world began organizing similar projects, hoping to establish contact with other civilizations. Maplewood became a symbol of hope, a reminder that humanity could rise above fear and embrace curiosity. As winter approached, the farm entered a season of rest. Jack and Lily spent their days preparing for the colder months ahead, stocking firewood and repairing tools. Despite the busyness, they made time to maintain the transmitter, ensuring it remained operational. Each night, they sent another message. Sometimes, a melody. Other times, a recording of laughter or the sound of rain falling on the roof. Their efforts inspired others to contribute. Neighbors donated supplies, while schools sent drawings and letters created by children. Even strangers mailed packages containing mementos meant to represent Earth's diversity. These items were carefully cataloged and added to future transmissions, creating a mosaic of human culture destined for the stars. Rachel and Dr. Ross continued refining the device, experimenting with ways to enhance its range and clarity. Their collaboration deepened, leading to discoveries that pushed the boundaries of science. Though neither sought recognition, their work earned them invitations to conferences and research facilities worldwide. Yet, they always returned to Maplewood, drawn back by the sense of purpose they found there. For Lily, the experience solidified her passion for storytelling. She wrote a book detailing their journey, from the day the spaceship crashed to the moment they received the aliens' response. Published under the title Songs Across the Stars, it became an instant bestseller, touching hearts across the globe. Readers praised her ability to capture the magic of connection and the power of kindness. Jack embraced his role as a community leader, advocating for unity and understanding. He traveled to nearby towns, sharing his story and encouraging others to act with courage and compassion. His speeches resonated deeply, inspiring people to look beyond differences and focus on shared humanity. Even Sheriff Hayes joined the cause, organizing events to promote peace and cooperation. "If a small town like Maplewood can change the world," he often said, "then imagine what we can achieve together." As spring returned, bringing warmer weather and longer days, the farm buzzed with activity. Volunteers arrived daily to help with chores, many of whom had been inspired by Jack and Lily's story. Together they planted new crops, repaired fences, and cared for the animals. The sense of community grew stronger, rooted in the belief that everyone had something valuable to offer. One sunny morning, as Jack and Lily walked through the fields, they spotted something unusual near the lake. A faint glow hovering above. The water, At first, they thought it was sunlight reflecting off the surface, but as they drew closer, they realized it was something else entirely. Shapes formed within the glow, shimmering and shifting like particles of light. Slowly, figures emerged, Kale, Lyra, and Vren standing hand in hand. Their faces lit up with joy as they recognized the humans who had saved them. "You came back," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Kyle nodded, placing a hand over his chest in gratitude. Lyra stepped forward, embracing Jack and Lily warmly. Vren ran to Lily, hugging her tightly and speaking in halting English. "Miss you." "We missed you too," Lily replied, laughing through her tears. The reunion lasted for hours, filled with laughter, music, and shared memories. Kale explained that their ship had encountered difficulties, forcing them to delay their journey. When they finally repaired it, they decided to return to Earth, not just to thank their rescuers, but to share a gift. Using gestures and hummed melodies, they led Jack and Lily to the lake, where a small object floated on the water. It was a crystalline sphere, glowing softly with an inner light. Kyle handed it to Jack, who held it reverently. "This is for you," Kyle said, his voice steady despite the language barrier. "A piece of our home, to remember us." Jack nodded, overcome with emotion. "Thank you," he said simply. "We'll never forget." As the sun set, casting golden hues across the landscape, the alien family prepared to leave once more. This time there was no sadness, only gratitude and hope. Before boarding their ship, Kale turned to face the group, raising his hand in farewell. The spaceship lifted off gracefully, disappearing into the night sky. Back at the farm, the sphere sat on the kitchen table, its light pulsing gently. It served as a reminder of the bond they had forged, a testament to the power of kindness and the limitless possibilities of connection. Though the aliens were gone again, their presence remained, etched in the hearts of those they had touched. And as Jack, Lily, and their friends looked up at the stars, they knew one thing for certain: love and compassion could bridge any divide, even the vast expanse of space. It was a lesson they would carry with them forever, passed down through generations as a beacon of hope for all who dared to dream of a better world.